Knicks fans, what's poppin'? It's your boy Simeon Russell coming at you with nothing but Knicks. We're below 500. We just lost our fourth straight game. Lost 5 of the last 6. We about to talk about it. Man, what did we expect? Um, the Knicks are not the San Antonio Spurs, as we know. We knew it was going to be a tough game. We knew the chances are that we would probably lose this game. But, yeah, we could be in trouble, right? Uh, Ken Sniffy, Chaco, Michael, Chinky Eye, Sean, what's popping with you fellas, man? Um, we lost again on the road, and I'm not sure exactly where we're going from here, man. Um, it's a tough situation for Jeff Hornacek right now. It's a tough situation for the Knicks. You're playing. We got a long road ahead of us this month, playing a lot of road games, and we had one of our best players is not here. Our best player, KP, is, I don't want to say he's on the decline, but he's going through a rough stretch of the season. Learning how to deal with these double and triple teams, learning how to deal with the adjustments that teams are making on him. And we need Jeff Hornacek to help him out. And I'm not sure Jeff Hornacek is doing that right now. Of course, we played the Spurs. And, what happened is what we expected to happen. But it doesn't make it feel any better. You know what I mean? We couldn't hang in the fourth. But truly, Ken Sniffy, even in the third, throughout most of the game, we took a 1-point lead in the third quarter, but for the most part, it didn't look like we were going to do much throughout most of the game. The second quarter, we had a nice run. We brought it back. Third quarter, we took a lead, but then right after that, San Antonio responded like a veteran team would do, and they kind of took it over from there. They pulled up. I think they had at one point in the third, maybe they had a 13-point lead, and I kind of knew right there, said, they're not going to give us this lead back, no matter how many mini runs we go on, But all we can do is look forward. And see, look at what we can do to make some changes, and see if we can try to pull ourselves out of this. But Jeff Hornacek is going to help. He's going to have to help the guys out. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely going to have to help the guys out right now. He said we need a point guard, Sean Michael Butler. Frank is coming along. He played decent tonight. Frank had 9 points, 11 assists, only 1 turnover. We'd like to see more penetration from him. I don't think it's just the point guard spot. I think that there are a few other things that we need to do. You know what I'm saying? I think that we're out of rhythm on offense. And that is a point guard's job to get us going. But it's not just from the point guard spot. I think, right now KP is forcing some things. I've seen a lot of bad shots from KP tonight. We're not moving the ball well. We were moving the ball so well earlier in the season, and now we're getting stagnant. We're straight up stagnant. And we're not playing with any kind of pace, any kind of rhythm, and those are some things that we were playing with earlier. Yeah, Ken Sniffy, we're missing Hardaway, and Hardaway, he helped us in transition to help us play a little bit more up tempo. Even with Hardaway there, we were still one of the teams that were slower in pace. But still, his transition offense, we can't say enough about it. His transition offense was we got so many easy buckets with Hardaway out there, and then his 3-point shooting ability as well. And then he, of course, eased the pressure off of KP. Right now, KP is feeling a lot of pressure, and there's nobody really easing the pressure from him. Chaco, you say KP is playing hurt. That could be. He could be playing hurt. He has the elbow issue. He sprained his ankle. But when you're a player that is the leader of the team and you're of KP's stature, sometimes you got to play through those things. I'm not blaming KP. KP needs some help out there. We've had some guys help him out night to night. Courtney Lee, Michael Beasley, but we need someone that's consistently going to take the pressure off of KP. Call up Trey Burke. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see what Hornacek and the management team does if they're thinking about Trey Burke. I'm trying to do some research and find out a little bit more about Trey Burke and why, he hasn't been called up. Why teams haven't been really looking to try to get him. Why he was, why was he available to us in the summer? There's some reasoning behind the reason why he's in the G League right now and not on an NBA team. So, we'll do some background research and see what we can find out about that. Emmanuel C. said, what gets me tight is how the rule is to allow shooters room to land, and they're constantly getting under KP. They are, they're switching. See, this is the thing about that, Emmanuel. They're switching. They're not afraid to switch off on KP because KP isn't strong, right? I talked about this in some videos a while back. Because KP isn't strong, they don't have a problem switching a guard on to KP and letting that guard get right up underneath KP and neutralizing the lower part of his body, right? And when the guard gets up under KP, there's not much he can do but try to pull up over top of him. And then it's not even a shot where he has his feet in a comfortable position. It's like he's just pulling up because he's tall, and it's not. It ends up, he makes it sometimes, but it ends up not being a really good shot. We've got to find a way to neutralize that. Because teams they're just not afraid to switch off on a KP because he's not strong. And maybe what we need to do is when that happens, KP doesn't have to pull because it usually happens around the foul line, around that mid-post, that elbow area. Kick the ball back out and then take that little guy down into the post where you can get closer to the basket, right? Instead of just pulling it from the foul line every time, but those are some adjustments that Jeff Hornacek is going to have to make. And yeah, you're right, Kyle. KP has become predictable, and that's not just KP's fault. KP has certain shots and certain amount of things in his repertoire, and Hornacek's got to learn how to use it. And our point guard's got to learn how to put him in a position to use everything that's in his repertoire. And I'm not sure Hornacek is doing that right now. I don't think he's making the adjustments that we need for our offense to become fluid again. And yes, I know Hardaway is out, but we need the coaching staff right now to make make some adjustments and make some changes that will spruce up our offense, get the guys back into a rhythm. We're under 500, James Willie, 17-18. with some tough games coming up still. We're at a point in the season where the team should feel, if they plan on making the playoffs, the team should feel desperate right now. Right? They should feel like every game is a must win because they know that we don't have the talent right now to be one of your top teams in the East, right? Let alone the NBA. So we should be playing desperate. We should be playing like we need every single win, which we do. And we need to come out like that against the Pelicans. Ishmael, you said, Melo said when something wasn't working, they kept doing it, so no adjustments. And he was right because we're doing the same thing right now. Right now. No adjustments. We keep going to the same things over and over and over again. No adjustments. The one thing I could say, a team like San Antonio, they have players that's been there for so long and they've run the same system for so long. They have a multitude of adjustments that they can go to because they know what guys can do. Jeff Hornacek doesn't have that luxury yet, but I'm not sure if he's trying either. Not sure if he's trying. Lily Phillips, you said can't defend the three ball at all. You're exactly right. We haven't defended the three ball all year. Now, teams haven't, I'm not going to say that teams have. We've had some nights where teams have really killed us from the three-point line. Then we had some nights where we did have defended it okay, or at least teams didn't score crazy from the three-point line. But we've had trouble defending that three ball all year long. And against a team like San Antonio, what I noticed about San Antonio, they're so smart and so crafty. They were able to exploit every single mismatch. If we had a mismatch out there, they were able to exploit it and knew exactly how to exploit it. That comes, of course, with being a veteran team and a team that just knows each other and knows how the coach wants them to play. If we take a look at what we did tonight against the Spurs, let's take a quick look at it. We had a lead of 1. Their biggest lead was 17. No surprise there. Right? Definitely not a surprise there. We shot 45.6% from the field, 5 of 14 from 3. And our three-point production has been down. It's not in our arsenal right now. It's really not a threat right now. And part of that is because Hardaway is out. Lily Phillips, we're going to get to what you said. You're saying the team is too slow, loaded with big men, and I don't think any other team in the NBA has 4 centers. Very clumsy and slow constructed team. We're going to get to that. We're going to talk about pace a little bit. So we're going to talk about that, Phillips. We shot 20 free throws tonight. That's better than usual, at least lately. We 90% from the three-point line. And still, because of their ball movement and man movement, San Antonio shot 39 free throws because they're going to the basket and they're aggressive. And for whatever reason, Jeff Hornacek had KP on Aldridge and Cantor on Pau Gasol. And I didn't understand it. It was clear to me, and maybe you guys have an idea as to why Hornacek maybe went with that defensive strategy. But Cantor obviously is stronger than KP and can handle Aldridge in the post. Gasol, I know KP has trouble guarding, forwards that can shoot the three. And part of that is because, some of those stretch forwards can also, go off the dribble. Well, Gasol's not really going off the dribble. He's basically going to be a spot-up shooter. I feel he should have had KP on Gasol, Aldridge on Cantor from the beginning. Now you see he switched it up in the third quarter, I believe, and put Cantor on Aldridge and KP on Gasol. But it's just an example of how we're not making the right lineup adjustments and making adjustments in the game for us to win. And part of that is the reason Aldridge went to the free throw line a few times. We allowed a lot of penetration into the lane, penetration and then kickouts, and then there we are. They shot 39 free throws, and even though we shot 90% from the free throw line, they shot 71.8%. They still made 28 free throws. They made 9 3-point baskets. On the boards, we out-rebounded them. We had 31 assists. That's good. We had a lot of assists. That's great. But still, we didn't play with a lot of pace. 6 steals, 8 blocks, only 9 turnovers. Those parts of the game weren't bad. We played well in those parts of the game. But we let them shoot 51% from the field. They were more aggressive. That's why they went to the line so many times. And we gave up 23-point shots. Let them hit 9 threes, 45% from 3. That'll get you every time, especially when we're not really a threat from 3-point land right now. It's hurting us. KP has 6 blocks. Cecil Hill, on the bright side, I missed it. I had to catch that back. But if you're saying something about Frank playing well, yeah, Frank played well tonight. Phillips, you say McBuckets was supposed to bring shooting to this team, and he's very inconsistent. He is inconsistent. That's why he's a bench player. You know what I'm saying? Bench players are going to be inconsistent. Last night, Hornacek tried to catch a little bit of lightning in the bottle and see if Dougie Fresh could bring something to the starting lineup. He didn't have the same chemistry with the starting lineup as he does with the bench. Emmanuel C, you say, I'm starting to believe that KP can't be the certain piece of an offense. I think that's still in development. We'll see. It's always going to be hard when you don't have another guy to release some of that pressure. And he's got some strength to build. We'll know a little bit better in a year or two when he gets stronger. KP is still having a decent season for us. He is banged up, like some people mentioned earlier. Didn't play well tonight. 18 points, 6 for 16 from the field. What was he? 7 rebounds, 37.5% from the field was KP. Courtney Lee, 18 points, 7 for 15, not bad. But KP needs somebody out there that really is going to be able to draw the attention, and that's hurting him right now. Lily Phillips, you say a real point guard would help out KP. I think if Frank plays with KP a little bit more, it'll help out KP. If you pay attention to the game, when Frank is in there with KP, he gets wide open looks from that 3-point line. He's got to knock him down. He gets wide open looks. And it's because Frank runs that pick and roll so well, and he really hits KP on the pop. That's something that I think Jeff needs to look at. He definitely needs to look at that. I know Phillips, you're not a big Frank fan right now. That's cool, but he's gonna turn you around, bro. He's gonna turn you around. I think it's time for some lineup changes, though. Right? I know you guys been calling for it. We've been calling for it. I think it's time for some lineup changes. what I would like to see right now is I would like to see Frank start. I thought that Frank should have started the second half against San Antonio. I thought that he did a good job on Parker, and I thought he deserved to start that second half. And he did a better job getting getting the offense going. So I would like to see a lineup change of Frank starting. And Frank has no jumper. I disagree. He can hit it. And I mean, he may not be the most efficient right now, but it's coming. He can hit it. But I would like to see Frank start, and I think I'd like to see Beasley go ahead and hit that 3 spot and see what we do. Just give it a go. See what happens. We got to change something up, because what we're doing right now, look, we've lost 4 in a row, 5 of the last 6. We need something to try to change things up. Phillips, I think you're wrong about that. Parker didn't blow by Frank all night. That surely didn't happen. Frank did a pretty good job on Parker, man. I think we were watching different games. I mean, I'm not gonna say that. I think the young guy, I forgot his name. He blew by Frank a couple of times. But listen, you're playing in the NBA. It's gonna happen. Frank played good defense. Frank played a really good game tonight. He had 3 steals, 11 assists, 9 points. Frank went to work tonight. Yeah, Parker blew by Jack, especially in that first half. But I would definitely like to see some lineup changes. Serious ones, not just, hey, let's try this out now. We definitely need to make some changes and see what Frank does from the starting. We definitely, see what Frank does in that starting lineup. See if that can, get us going a little bit. So if we see a lineup of Frank, Courtney Lee, Michael Beasley, KP, and Cantor, see what we can do with that. Now, my only fear with that is that we end up playing slower. That's my only fear if we do that, right? Is that because Beasley, he likes to, Marty. I think we should give it a try. But Beasley, he likes to get into his one-on-one thing, but he does pass the ball. I'll give it to him. Beasley, he passes the ball. I think Beasley had, what did Beasley have? Beasley had 4 assists tonight. He does a good job finding Dougie. He does a good job finding KO. Sometimes he takes some ill-advised shots, but sometimes you have some players out there that you need to, you live with it. You know what I mean? But I think it's time for us to give Frank a try, give Beasley a try, and see if we can get them guys working together and not stopping the ball every time. Who will give us, Vincent, you say who will give us at least 10 points off the bench at that point? I think you're gonna have to mix up the lineups then. If you have those guys starting, and then you let Beasley play with the bench players a little bit, to continue to have a boost, and maybe Dougie will be a little bit more free off the on the bench, because when Beasley comes in from off the bench, he dominates the ball sometimes, and so maybe Dougie will get freed up a little bit. So coming off the bench, you'd have, let me see, who would you have coming off the bench? You have Jack at the 1, at the 2. I'm not sure who it would be at the 2. I don't know if it would be Ron Baker. I don't know if it would be, I'm not sure who would be at the 2. And then you'd have at the 3, you'd have McBuckets. And then you have KO. I mean, he's really only playing 8 or 9 players anyway. But and if it doesn't work, you can always go back to the bench. You can always go back to your lineup. But I think you got to try something. You got to try something and see if we can get some kind of spark. Because what we have now is growing really stagnant. Which is why our pace is so. It's not so slow. And I'm gonna pull that up in a little bit, but our pace is slower because we've grown stagnant. So I would like to see that and see how it works. Phillips, you say, are you saying Lance? You say, do you think Lantern will be back or traded? Are you saying Cantor or Lance? Because I think both of them will be back. Lee, Kenny Reese. You know what? Lee for a while was really playing great. He was, but he hasn't been playing that great the past few games. And I think it's because he's putting pressure on himself to be that second guy behind KP or be one of the guys to pick up the scoring load instead of just playing his game. He's gotten into these dribble modes, right, where he's been catching the ball and just like dribble, and not really going anywhere. I'm not sure what's up with that. When Hardaway was here, he was playing great, and then when Hardaway went out, he picked up the load a little bit. But when he picked up the load, he wasn't trying to create every shot. He was still playing within the offense. I think he needs to get back to that because he's been getting a little bit too much in the one-on-one. Justin, you say KP lost all his aggression since his rookie year. I don't know if he lost it all. I think what we saw in his rookie year is that people didn't know who he was or what to expect. So he was getting a lot of putback dunks and things like that because they didn't know what he could do. Now people know what he can do. So now people expect it, right? And so you see a different, he's defended differently. They know what he's about. So it's a little bit tougher. I think that's the difference that we're seeing from his rookie year to now. The Unicorns Knicks. Let me tell you something. We aren't shooting enough threes. Well, you're right. We're not shooting a lot of threes. We shot 14 threes tonight. I think, what was it we made? We were 5 for 14 from the field. From 3-point range. And part of that is Hardaway being out. And, part of that is, we are throwing the ball into that mid-post a lot. And KP is not always recognizing the double team and passing it out for the swing. See, what should be happening is that the ball goes into that mid-post or the low post. KP gets doubled, the ball gets swung back around the perimeter, and we find an open three. It happens sometimes. It's not happening enough because sometimes KP is forcing some shots. He has to understand how to recognize that double team. And being in the position that he's in, he's never been in this position before where he's the focal point. So he's got to learn how to recognize when that double team is coming. A lot of teams, when they do double team KP, they wait just until he puts the ball on the floor and he's making his move to the basket, and then the double team comes. So he's got to learn how to deal with that, and Hornacek's got to help him out a little bit. The coaching staff, they got to help him out a little bit. Knicks and Syracuse fan, you say, is it time to consider the tank? No. I feel like Jeff has been told from Mills and Dolan that we need to tank, and that is why he's been making bad decisions late in games. I don't think so. I just don't think that coaches and players tank. If anyone tanks, is management, and they just put, they put out bad players. I don't think he's trying to tank. I think he wants to win. I don't think it's time to tank either. And I discussed that in the last video. I never think it's time to tank. I think you always try to win, and you develop a winning culture. You develop winning habits, and you do that by trying to win, not by trying to lose. That's just my opinion. Free Dotson. I'd like to see Dotson get some burn. Hornacek went to him early when Hardaway was out. He had a short leash on him. Took him out quick. Took him out the lineup real quick. I think he needs to put him back in and see if he can give us something. Yeah, I know, Marty. He did really want to win that Pistons game, and he took Frank out real early, and Frank was playing well. He's afraid to hand the keys over to him, but at some point, he's just got to do it. He's got to give it to him and let the kid go. And he's playing better and better, and pretty soon it's going to be like, what, you just got to do it. Because he's playing better and better, and his defense, we need his defense on the floor. Because like we all said earlier, it's only so long. Jared Jack is old. It's only so long that he's going to be able to play at a certain level. Daniel, you're right. We've been below 500 before. Yep, and we responded. But we responded when we were in a soft schedule as well, when we were playing at home. It's a little bit different now. I'm not saying we can't do it. But it's definitely a little bit different because of the situation that we're in as far as our schedule is concerned. We got a tough schedule coming up as far as being on the road and those type of things. So, so that's definitely we're in the tough stretch of the season. Lily Phillips, you say, do you think we make a trade at all? I don't think we make a trade right now. I don't know if there's anything that we can do that's going to I don't know what we can do, unless you're talking about a star player coming, But then, of course, we're developing a culture. We need to make sure we're vetting players appropriately, and we're bringing in guys. What's good, Kawhi? That we're bringing in guys that fit our culture, right? We don't want to make a trade just to say, okay, let's get into the playoffs. Yes, I want to make the playoffs. I want to try to win. But we got to remember that we're a young team that's developing, so we need to be mindful of the type of players we're bringing in. We also need to be mindful of the cap, right? You don't want to make a trade for a player that's making, let's say, $19 million a year, and then you give up some young players, and then you got a player that's making $19 million or something like that, and he gets us just into the playoffs, but now we're either stuck with his contract or he leaves at the end of the year, and we gave up some young players for him. I think we need to look at what we have, sift through it, see what players can do, see how players respond in different situations, and then make player decisions at the end of the year. Now, will something small happen, maybe something that frees up some cap space or puts us in a position to maximize our cap in the summer? Maybe something like that happens, but I don't think we do anything major right now. The goal always, yes, is to make it to the playoffs, but I think you make that goal with the players that you have at the point for us right now. Now there's gonna come a time when it's like, we need to make a move, sometime in the future, a few years from now, where we need to make a move to get into the playoffs or to take the next step. I think right now we're at the situation where we're basically in a year-long tryout and looking at what players that we have and what players are going to be with us going forward. Do we eventually use the stretch provision on Noah? No, I think we don't, because if we use the stretch provision, that's going to bog us down with, Noah over the next 2 years is making close to $40 million. You take that $40 million and you break that up over 5 years. Now we got to pay $8 million a year for Noah. That's not even on our team. That doesn't make any sense. I think you wait until 2020 and let his contract expire in 2020, because 2020 is the year that we'll have cap space, because we have a lot of players who their contracts end in 19, their contracts end in 20. That's the year that we'll be looking at really taking a step forward as far as free agency is concerned. So I think we just hold out until then. Ken Sniffy, you say Dotson does more than Baker and is just as good of a defender. I agree. I definitely agree. He's just as good of a defender. He still plays a little bit tentative to me when I do see him in the game. When I seen Dotson into some, when he filled in for Hardaway, he looked a little tentative out there. He needed more time to stay out there and play a little bit so he can loosen up. Hornacek didn't give him that time, but he should have. So I think Dotson deserves to get another chance in that lineup. Ishmael, he said, Knicks are just fool's gold. Won a little at home, but are showing their true form now. We talked about that a little bit in the last video, in the last show, and we asked, is this the real Knicks? And a lot of people said yes, that what we're seeing now is the real Knicks. It may be. Let's see what happens when Hardaway gets back, though. The problem is that Hardaway may not come back until after this January run, this January schedule. And by that time, it could be too late. Yep, it'll be too late. The Unicorns, Knicks, exactly, they always do. And this, after Christmas last year, we fell off the same way. Stop comparing and let these young guys play. It's frustrating. Daniel, I agree. We can't look at what happened last year. This is a different team, and we need to focus on what we're doing this year. Look at this team that we have right now. Last year's team had different expectations. Last year's team had supposedly had a different level of player. You had Melo, and then you had Derrick Rose, and they were supposed to be paired up with KP, and so the expectations were different. If you look at the expectations that we have for this team coming in to the season, we're surpassing it. But even though we surpassed it, we can say, well, look at the beginning of the season. We didn't have these expectations, but we're here now. So we're going to take what we have and say what we could do, and we have a chance to be in the playoffs. And I think we go for it, even, and not just say, well, we didn't expect to be here, so it's cool. No, I think we go for it. Let's try Frank and Dotson one more time. Mighty Knicks, you're saying, let's try Frank and Dotson one more time. Last time they played together was in a Rockets game. I agree. Let's try them one more time. Frank is a little bit more comfortable. We can all see it. He's looking comfortable. He's understanding where people want the ball. There was one play in the second quarter, I think it was, where Frank came down on a fast break. It was a beautiful play. He came down on a fast break. He dribbled almost as if he was going to dribble out of the paint, but he knew KP was trailing the play. He turned around, dipped it to KP. That comes from playing and knowing where people want the ball, how they want the ball, and what people are doing. And, Frank can do that. You know what I mean? And he does that when he gets time on the floor. And if you give him, so you can see he's getting more comfortable. That play was a sign of him getting more comfortable. If you get Dotson out there, let him get a little bit more comfortable. We need something to spark us. You know what I'm saying? And it's the perfect time to let them try to spark us up. Captain, you say, I'm convinced Hardaway could put on some muscle and be our small forward in the future. That way, if Dotson develops, he can become our future two guard. I don't know. I think that in the future, Hardaway is going to be our two. He's going to be our shooting guard, and we'll have a longer three. I think that you look at three men around the league. Hardaway's 6'6". You look at three men around the league, they're 6'8", 6'9". That those 3 inches, that's a lot of length. So we want to have a three-man that's long. The league is going longer. You want to have a three-man that's long. You want to have a three-man that can play defense, that can shoot from three. And Hardaway, while he can play there in a small lineup, I think you want to have a legitimate three-man at that spot. If you can have a legitimate three-man that's 6'8", 6'9", and then have Hardaway 6'6" at the shooting guard, and then a 6'5" point guard, you got a lot of length on the floor. Emmanuel, you say wait until 2020 is going to have me stressed. I feel you, man, and I'm with you on that. Waiting until 2020, but it doesn't mean that we won't see good basketball, though. I think we can still see good basketball because we got a lot of young pieces. If you look at it, KP is 22, Frank is 19, Cantor is 25, McDermott, I think, is 23, 24, 25. Hardaway is 25. So we still got some young guys that are growing and developing, and so we can still play some good basketball while we're waiting until 2020. When I say waiting until 2020, I'm not saying that we're waiting until 2020 to play good basketball and be a playoff team. I'm saying that 2020 is that year that we can possibly really take a leap forward and become one of the elite teams in the East, if not in the league. Because you figure by 2020, that's 2.5 years from now. By 2020, Frank would have been in the league for 2 or 3 years. KP would be entering his prime. Tim Hardaway should be in his prime. Cantor will be in his prime. So these guys would have been playing together for a while. They'd be in their prime years. And we should be one of those teams that's right on the cusp. And then we have some money that we can say, okay, let's get somebody that puts us over the top. That's what I mean about 2020. And that's why I'm saying we don't want to take chances trying to bring in players that's going to get us into the playoffs now. Veteran players and those type of things, unless you're bringing somebody in on a cheap contract, which is the reason why we got Beasley on a cheap contract. We got Sessions is on a cheap contract. You got Jack is on a cheap contract. These guys are on cheap contracts. Veterans on cheap contracts, and that's what you want to do. You want to have vets on cheap contracts, young guys that are developing and up and coming on very good contracts, and then you have money and you have the ability to maneuver with that cap so that you can then make a move when the time comes. Right now the only really bad contract we have is Joakim Noah. And you let that play out. 2020 comes, that contract is gone, completely off the books, and then we have some room to make some real moves that puts us over the top. And in the meantime, we're picking up players out the draft, right? We have our first round pick this year. We have our first round pick next year. So in the meantime, we're picking up players out the draft, and there you go. Man, you say 2020 is promising for the Knicks, and I was going to mention politics, but hey, I feel you there. I feel you there, Emmanuel. Get rid of Sessions. Joe Westbrook, you say get rid of Sessions and Noah. They don't even play. Well, we can't really get rid of Noah. We've been talking about that. You can't really get rid of Noah because Noah's contract is too big. No one's going to take him. In order for us to get rid of Noah, we'll have to give up a first-round draft pick or give up a young player, and we don't want to do that. That doesn't make sense. Might as well let his contract play out. Sessions, he doesn't do much right now. He's on the end of the bench. I think they have him as a security blanket, an insurance policy in the event that Jack goes down. I know a lot of people are saying, waive Sessions, cut Sessions, and bring up Trey Burke. That could be a possibility. Sessions has a little bit more experience than Trey Burke. And there's a reason Trey Burke is in the G League. And I'll keep going back to that. I'm not saying don't give Trey Burke a try. It could be a good idea. You know what? You can always send him back down. But we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot either. You waive Sessions, bring up Burke. Burke doesn't work out. And then Jack goes down and we don't have, and we're in the midst of fighting for the playoffs, and then you don't have a veteran point guard out there. There's a lot of things to consider. I think if we get to the point of the season where we know we're not going to be in the playoffs, then you'll definitely see that happen, and you'll see some changes. Marty Knicks, you say Frank, Luke, and KP will be the 99 Spurs. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Let's put it like this. You look at where we are. If you look at, let's take a look at some standings real fast. Right? If you look at the standings, if we've got to see what happens during this stretch here. If we have the ability to medal around 500 during this stretch, then we can stay in contention. But teams are better this year, right? I mean, you look at the worst team in the league is 9-25. That's the Hawks. And even, there was that 9 games out of a playoff spot. That's a lot of games, of course. But, when you look at that, and, of course, we don't know how much separation would happen during the season. But, if, let's say the Knicks fall short of the playoffs and they're like the 9th or 10th seed, they still may not be that far away from the last, the worst team in the league. Depending on how things go. So, I think that, we play it out and see what happens, and then if we're smart at the trade deadline and we don't jump and try to do something crazy, which I trust this management team. I don't think that we'll jump and try to do something crazy. Once we get to the draft, you still have the ability to make some trades and make some moves to move up in the draft. So, our people's dreams of having some of these guys on the Knicks aren't always lost because you do have the ability to make moves during or before the draft. But you've got to make sure that you are making the right moves. You don't do something crazy at the deadline that cripples your ability to make moves during the draft. I don't think this administration to do that. I think they're smart. I think that Scott Perry is smart, and I think he's patient. I think he does a good job seeing what's out there. He has good relationships with people, and I trust him. I trust him to make good moves for us. Yeah. Kawhi, you said we got to see what happens if we magically learn how to win on the road. Things will get really complicated. You're right. I'm not sure if we're gonna magically learn how to win on the road. I mean, 2-12. That's a good sample size when you're talking about a season, and it's hurting us right now. I think, and especially right now, I think that we're pushing. It's in our heads. You know what I'm saying? That we can't win on the road, and so we're really trying to get it, and it's backfiring on us because we're thinking a little bit too much instead of just playing ball. And hopefully, if we can get a good road win somewhere, it can help release some of that pressure, and then we'll be able to play better. But right now we're struggling, and I think some of what we're going through right now is mental. Because we haven't been able to win on the road. We got something going on upstairs that's making us tense. Because right now, I mean, we're tied for the worst road record in the league. And then what that's going to do, we continue to play like this on the road, is going to put more pressure on us to win at home. And so now we're at home playing with more pressure, and then that can implode on us. So we'll see what happens and see how this goes. But we're in a rough stretch. Kareem, I'm glad you was able to jump on the stream. We appreciate it. We have fun here, man. After every Knicks game, we talk for a while, and it's great. I'm glad you made it here. Nino, you finally got to catch up with me. Yeah. I'm glad to see you here, bro. Glad to see you here. The Unicorns Knicks, you say, Simeon, I know what you are saying, but I think that chance to get the one win we needed is already long gone. We missed it with this game and the Pistons game. You could be right. Unicorn. Yeah. That Pistons win, that was a game that we should have had. Chicago, we should have had. And it buried us in our, it took even more confidence away from us, because right now I think a lot of it is about confidence, and it's about what we're doing upstairs, and we're pressing for it. And the more we lose confidence on the road. We'll get another road win. I doubt we're going to stay at 2 road wins. We'll get another one. I just hope it's not too late. Just hope it's not too late. But I think if we get one, at least it'll break the pressure a little bit, and then we'll be able to, hopefully relax a little bit more while we're going on the road and playing. Marty, even if we have the lead, we think we will lose. It's all in our heads. I agree. It's like, we have the lead, and instead of us looking like Kenny is saying, instead of us having that killer instinct, we had the lead, and we're finding ways. We're worried about not losing the lead instead of, putting our foot on their necks and taking them out. Yeah, Ross, if we just played 50-50 on the road, we'd be a top 4 team in the East just by playing 50-50 on the road. Yep. Demonsi said we'll see how they do on the road now. I mean we've been seeing they're 2-12 on the road. We'll see how they do for the rest of the season. But we need to get one in order to at least snap the streak. Take some of the pressure off, and then go from there. But we've got some, we've got a tough road ahead. Okay, so you say Mr. Walton. You say it's actually Karim. Did I say that correctly? Karim. Um, Hopefully I said that correctly. Thank you for correcting me. We are who we thought we was before the season started, but that's okay. We have a limited talent. So we can win. We usually overachieve. And it might be that that's who we are. Just might be. You know what? Like I always say, we don't want to tank, but it's a win-win situation either way. If we win and we make the playoffs, great. If we don't and we get a higher draft pick, that's okay as well, because then we have someone to develop. But I still think so. I'm not encouraging tanking. I'm just saying that we try to win. We build a winning mentality. We try to build winning habits. If you lose, you built good habits, you built winning habits, and then you get a good pick, and hopefully that pick turns out to be a good player. But the draft is always kind of a crapshoot. You know what I mean? You never know what's going to happen or who's going to turn into what. But you always, we're at the point in the season, we're in a tough situation, but overall, we're in a decent situation to try to, improve as we go on. We got to have a long-term outlook with this team. But let's get to let's talk a little bit more about this season and what's happening with this season, because right now, pace is a common theme that we talk about. We don't always use the word pace, but we talk about how slow the team is playing, right? We really do play a slow game, and we should be playing more of an up-tempo game. We need to be pushing the ball on every play. Right now, let's take a look at this. Right now, the Knicks are. We are. We're 18th in the league in pace at 98.58. Okay, you look at teams like Los Angeles, 104.08, number one in the league, number one in the league in pace. Okay, San Antonio, not surprisingly, because they have some older players, they're 96.50, almost last in the league in pace. And yet still, we gave up what we gave up 111 points against them. That's because they're so efficient. They're such an efficient team. So we're in the bottom half of the league in pace. And if you're talking about a team that has young players, we shouldn't be in the bottom half of the league in pace. But if you watch, we don't get the ball out the net. Whoever scores, they score, and we take our time getting the ball out the net. There's no way you can push the ball up the floor if you're not getting the ball out the net, right? The ball goes in, you got to have somebody grabbing the ball out the net, get it in, and let's go. And let's try to beat the defense up the floor. And we don't play with that kind of mentality. We play very slow. Part of it, as maybe it was Phillips, I think, was saying a little bit earlier. We have a lot of big guys but we're only playing two of those big guys, right? Noah and Hernangomez, they're not really playing. You got Cantor. He can run the floor sometimes. He runs the floor. Kylo Quinn, he's young enough to be able to run the floor. He may not have crazy speed, but he can run the floor. But we also don't have athletes. That hurts us. We don't have a lot of those. We need our wings to be athletes, and we don't have athletic wings right now. Tim is athletic, and he was getting up the floor. But other than that, we don't have an athletic three-man out there. And that's why we want to have we like to have one of those long athletic three men that can get up the floor. But in order to do it, I mean, we can get up the floor now. And I see Phillips, you say Frank is slow. Listen, let me tell you something. Jason Kidd was slow in his later years, but he could still get the ball up the floor. You know why? Because you don't have to dribble the ball up the floor. As a matter of fact, the best way to get the ball up the floor is to pass the ball up the floor. That's the best way to push the pace. So we don't have to get the ball up the floor and dribble all the way up the floor. You want to push the pace, you get the ball up the floor and you look to pass it up the sideline, right? Because 100% of the time, passing the ball up the floor is going to beat somebody dribbling the ball up the floor. All right. And if you look at the Lakers, Lonzo Ball, he loves to get the ball up the floor. That's the first thing he looks to do. He turns and he looks up the floor to see who he can pass the ball up to. Right? Pass the ball up to Kyle Kuzma, Ingram, whoever is on the wing, and let them go for it. He does it and he loves to do it. And it's something that we don't do. We don't get the ball and just look up the floor and try to get a quick shot. Try to catch the defense sleeping. Get a quick shot in rhythm. So you don't gotta have a super fast point guard to get the ball up the floor. It's not about a point guard being slow. It's about, can we pass the ball up the floor? Right? And move the ball up the floor with good pace and with good speed, but by passing, not by dribbling. Because by dribbling the ball up the floor is when you're actually slowing the pace down. Because you don't move as fast as the ball going through the air. But you're right. We do need athleticism, Phillips. We need athleticism to advance the ball. But your point guard doesn't have to be the athlete. Right? Your point guard is the person making the decision on who to pass the ball to up the floor. You want your wings to be the athletes. You want your 2, your 3, and maybe even your 4 to be the athletes that can get to it. Right? If your point guard can look up and get the ball to those guys streaming up the floor, that's all you need. Jason Kidd did that late in his years when he didn't have speed, but he knew how to get the ball up the floor. He knew who to pass it to up the floor. He knew how to catch the trailer. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need the speed. You just need to have the IQ, and you need to have it's something that you need to practice. Your team needs to practice that, and it's got to be drilled into the players, and it's got to become a habit of the team to push that ball up the floor. Mighty Knicks. Yeah, there you go. We need some wide receivers out there. You know what I'm saying? You hear all the time that your point guard is like your quarterback, right? Well, your quarterback don't have to be the fastest runner on the field. Don't have to be the highest jumper on the field. As long as your quarterback, as long as Tom Brady can get the ball out to his receivers, we're good. I'm not gonna say Eli. That's my boy. The Giants, my team, but I get my heart hurts a little bit every time I talk about the Giants this year. So, and I hate to talk about the Patriots, man, because I don't like the Patriots. I can't stand. I hate the Patriots, but I got to give it to Tom Brady because, they go to work. You know what I mean? But your quarterback don't have to be the best athlete on the field. Your best athletes are your receivers, your running backs. Same thing in basketball. Your point guard don't have to be the best athlete. If your wings are athletes, you can get it out to them. And, that's what we need. That's what we need to instill. We need to get our guys out there running. We get Dotson on the floor, he can run. Frank can run. And Frank can get the ball to him. We just need to let these guys go ahead and play a little bit and try to push the ball up the floor because we're not doing it right now. As a Bills fan, the Tom analogy hurts. Look, man, hey, Knicks and Syracuse fan. As a Giants fan, it hurts too, man. Trust me, because I am not. I'm definitely. I don't like the Patriots, but the truth is the truth, man. The truth is the truth about them. But yeah, it hurts. Especially one of my best friends is a Patriots fan, man, and every chance he gets, he sends me a text, telling me about something that the Giants did. I'm like, dude, why you pay attention to the Giants? Just pay attention to the Patriots. Why you talking about the Giants all the time? But he's trying to rub it in. Eli is out of there. Well, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. Yeah. I don't want to talk about the Giants right now. I'm already hurting about what the Knicks going through, and the Giants they're gonna hurt me a little bit more. Unicorns Knicks. You said I have it tough. You're speaking to the Jets fan. Hey, Unicorn, I feel you. I mean, it's been miserable for the Giants this year too. As a Giants fan, it's been miserable all season. I came into the season with so much hope, right? We picked up Brandon. I had a lot of hope, but I was concerned. We picked up Brandon Marshall. I was like, okay, maybe we're gonna be able to do something on offense, but we never did anything about our offensive line, right? And we never really did anything about our running back situation. So I was a little bit nervous, and it all blew up in our face. So yeah, my New York Giants hurt me this year. So we'll see what happens come draft time. No, man, I'm not a Redskins fan. Not at all. Because I moved from New York to DC. I know about the Redskins, but I'm not a Redskins fan at all. As a matter of fact, I go to war every Sunday with Redskins fans. You know what I'm saying? Especially when they play each other, I go to war with them. Hopefully this new GM can do something. We'll see what happens. But back to the Knicks. The Knicks remind you of the Browns. That's pretty bad, bro. Have we really been that? Yeah. The Knicks actually remind me of the Knicks to me are like the Redskins of the NFL. Organization can't get it. You come into the season sometimes with hope, and then it all just goes kaput. But So where are we? Pace. We're still talking about pace, and we need athletes out there. We need athletes. I don't think we'll probably won't get them this year. We'll probably hopefully look to get some of those athletes in the draft. We do have the Bulls' second-round pick. That should be pretty high. And then, of course, we have our own first-round pick. So we should, regardless of where we fall, we should come out of the draft looking good. And then if we can make some moves, we might be looking pretty good if we can get some athletes coming out of the draft, some people that can get up and down the floor. We should be able to make some moves and do something. Emmanuel, you say you're a loyal person when you're a Knicks fan, for sure. I'm loyal. I'm as loyal as I could be to the Knicks. Kenny, you say we could still move Hernangomez for something. You're right. And I was thinking about that today. Hernangomez, he's frustrated. He's a little bit frustrated about his role with the team right now. He wants to play. He's not playing, and he wants to play. And it's frustrating him. And I don't know if it's to the point where he wants to be traded. I think that he still wants to play for the Knicks, but he's definitely frustrated about what's happening on the team. And it does remain a possibility that he could be traded. I don't know what the market out there is for him. Especially since That's true, Frank. That's true. I'll get to that. Especially since he's not playing much. Not exactly sure what the market is looking like for him. Frank, you say the Bulls pick is looking less good day by day, by the day. You're right. Yep. If you look right now, the Bulls are Chicago's 12-22. They're definitely not going to be the worst team in the league, right? At least right now, it doesn't look like they're going to be the worst team in the league. So that that Bulls pick may not be what we thought it would be. That's definitely true. That Bulls pick may be a little bit further down, but it doesn't mean that you can't package that Bulls pick and our pick to move up in the draft. And a player. You might be able to package our pick, the Bulls pick, and a player to move up somewhere in the draft. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think we make any serious moves at the trade deadline, so that we can keep our options open come draft time. Let's see what Hernangomez said. Hernangomez. Let's see what we're talking about here. Hernangomez is desperately waiting for, this is the New York Post, by the way, an article by Mr. Mark Berman, the great Mark Berman. Willy Hernangomez is desperately waiting for something to give. Hernangomez, it's been really hard. He says, it's been really hard for me. The only thing I know is I work hard every day and I try to be ready when they need me. I'm glad to support teammates on the bench because we're winning now. But it's been really hard for me. I've played 15 games all season. It's hard, but I'm working hard to be ready. I don't like my situation. When I have the chance to be on the court, I'll try to use it. According to sources, the Knicks still consider Hernangomez, 23, a part of the future. If this stretch of 16 of 20 games on the road, and this was before the Bulls game, on the road tosses the Knicks out of the playoff picture, they certainly will step up their bid to trade O'Quinn at the deadline and open up playing time for the Spanish center, who was Kristaps Porzingis' best friend. There could be, we'll see what happens on that front with Hernangomez. We'll see what happens there. I still think that he's worth developing and trying to develop, and him not playing now could be part of his development. But who knows what's going to happen? He may be looking and saying, thinking that he's not feeling like he's not going to get his chance right now. But I don't think the Knicks give up on him yet. And if he's going to be a piece for the future, if they still feel like he's a piece for the future, then I think you stay put. And at some point, we look at these contracts often, and I never remember who's what, of course, but Kyle O'Quinn. Well, let's look and see when Kyle O'Quinn is up. Kyle O'Quinn. So Kyle O'Quinn has this year, and then he has a player option for 2018-2019. And O'Quinn's not on a bad contract, $4 million a year. That's not a bad contract at all. I think that you, and then of course, there's always the chance that Cantor could opt out of his contract at the end of his year. So I don't think you do anything with Hernangomez right now, because you have the chance that Cantor can opt out, and then you have Kyle O'Quinn that you might, that you'll have to make a decision about. And then, of course, in 2018, 2019, he's going to, at the end of that 2019 season, he'll be a free agent. So, you got a guy, you got a prospect there on the bench that could definitely be a double-double guy. I think you try to develop him and then see what happens with Cantor and Kyle O'Quinn. I would like to definitely keep Cantor. And then we'll see what happens with Kyle O'Quinn. But I don't think it's out of the question that Kyle O'Quinn, if anyone was going to get traded, that O'Quinn gets traded because he's on a good contract, and he's he's worth his contract, and he has some value. So who knows? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. Cantor may ask for too much money, you say, Jersey Shore? He could. Cantor is making $17 million this year. In 2018, 2019, he makes $18 million, $18,600,000. He has a player option for 2018, 2019. So depending on what his value looks like at the end of this season, he's either going, he could decide to opt out of his contract to hopefully get more, or he decides to, I don't want to say opt in, but just continue his contract throughout 2018, 2019. And then of course, everything will be based on his value. He could definitely. I think he wants to be in New York. I think he really likes it, and he wants to be in New York. So, we'll see what happens there. But those are the reasons why I think they want to try to develop Hernangomez and not just say, okay, he's done. Let's trade him for something, because you still wanted, Joakim Noah's going to be gone in 2020, and as Cantor can opt out next year. Who knows? Kyle O'Quinn can opt out next year. He has a player option. So at the end of this season, Kyle O'Quinn can opt out. He has an opt out. We did say it, but it just kind of dawned on me that Kyle O'Quinn, at the end of this season, he can opt out of his contract if he wants to. So it's plausible that at the end of this season, Cantor and Kyle O'Quinn opt out of their contracts, right? And let's say they're both too expensive to re-sign. Now what? Now, they could both opt in. They could both just say, we're going to keep our contracts. But they could both decide to opt out. So I don't think they're going to do anything with Hernangomez unless they're going to get another prospect, another big man prospect back. I don't think they're going to do anything with him. We'll see, but I don't think so. Just because there's a chance that both of those guys can opt out. Yeah, Ross, his agent said he was really happy to be in New York, which leads me to believe that he wants to be here and he wants to stay. I think Cantor will probably continue his contract until 2018-19, and then see what happens after that. Frank, you say Kyle is definitely going to leave. Why do you say that? Why do you think he's definitely leaving? He plays a lot. I don't think he's a starter anywhere in the league, honestly. I'm interested to know why you think he's leaving. Sir Patrick, you say Julius Randle might be a nice addition. We've heard that a lot. He could be. I'm not exactly sure when Julius Randle's contract is up, but let's see. Let's take a look at that. You want to payrolls? We're gonna take a look at Julius Randle. A lot of people seem to think that Julius Randle will fit in with the Knicks really well, and he may. Um, the question is, even if Kylo Quinn is gone, and you have Cantor and you have KP, is Julius Randle content to coming off the bench, or does he start? Right. So Julius Randle, he has a qualifying offer of $5 million at the end of this season. So we'll see how much the Lakers really want him, if they give him the qualifying offer, if they let him be a free agent. So we'll see how that goes with Julius Randle. He could be, but he could definitely be a good fit for the team. Kareem, yeah, Emmanuel. Cantor is only 25 years old. Randle will want way too much money, Jameer. You may be right about that. He may want a lot of money. And I think this team. So we got to be careful about what we're doing with our cap over the summer, and making sure we're making the right decisions, especially when we got guys. That's part of the reason why, Hernangomez, I don't think they do anything with him, because if Kylo Quinn does opt out and he gets a contract someplace else, you got someone who can step right in. Now, the defense, we need him to, pick up his defense a little bit, so that he can be effective. We know he's going to rebound. We know he can score some buckets. We need that defense to step up. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about this Knicks versus Pelicans game, because I'm definitely a little bit concerned about this game. And the reason why is because I seen tonight what Pau Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge did to us down low. Not even down low. Pau Gasol, played more, shooting those mid-range jumpers. LaMarcus Aldridge did some work down low. Like I said before, not sure why Hornacek had KP on Aldridge. I would have preferred that he had Cantor on Aldridge to start the game and let KP play against Gasol. But now we're talking about two guys that are even more dynamic, right? You got DeMarcus Cousins and you got Anthony Davis. What are we going to do with those two guys? How do we defend them? KP is probably going to be on Davis, I would think. Cousins, Cantor is probably going to be on Cousins, I would think. Because Cousins will probably abuse KP down low. And we don't want KP taking that kind of abuse and getting in foul trouble. But still, he's got to deal with Anthony Davis down there. And he's going to be a load. You're right, Kawhi. Yep. The Pelicans are one of those inconsistent teams. Right now, the Pelicans are 18-16. They're 7th in the Western Conference. So they're right on par, basically, the same kind of team as us, right? Let's see. They're 3rd in points per game, 17th in rebounding. That's a little bit surprising, given that they have Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. You figured they'd be a little bit higher in rebounding, a little bit better rebounding team, right? 2nd in assists per game. They'll let us score. Opponents points per game, 29th. But can we stop them? Tonight, what we saw tonight. Let's see if we can go back and just look at these stats a little bit. I want to see what Aldridge and Gasol ended up with tonight. Because especially like the beginning of that third quarter, Aldridge and Gasol, they were eating us up. You know, and these are two guys that aren't as mobile, aren't as dynamic. LaMarcus Aldridge, 25 points, 5 rebounds, had 4 assists. Pau Gasol, 17 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. And this is how old is Gasol? 37, 38 years old. This is a 37, 38-year-old center, right? And then you have a LaMarcus Aldridge who's good, but he's not DeMarcus Cousins. And Pau Gasol, he isn't Anthony Davis. So I'm a little bit concerned about what's going to happen to us down low against the Pelicans. Yeah, definitely a little bit worried about that. And then, of course, you have a smart point guard in Rajon Rondo, who is coming off the bench. He had 25 assists the other day. Then you got Drew Holiday. So, we're gonna have to be on point with our guards. Rondo, being smart, might try to take advantage of Frank a little bit. He's an intelligent guy. We'll see. Frank should be able to match up with him. As far as, Rondo's 6'1", Drew Holiday 6'4". We'll see how that goes. I'm hoping that Jeff Hornacek goes ahead and starts Frank. Jameer said we should try to trap AD and Boogie. We should try to trap them. They're not really going to be. Well, I'm pretty sure we'll bring some double teams against them. I'm not sure. Let's see what they shoot from the 3-point line. Pelicans. Let's see what's going on with these guys. They shoot 38.8% from the 3-point line. So, that's almost 40%. So if we're talking about double teaming, trapping, we're going to have to watch that they don't kick that thing out. Boom. And they knock it down. Jack is going to get torched. Yeah, he's going to have to deal with Drew Holiday. That's a tough assignment right there. This may be the time, I'm telling you, this may be the time to go ahead and start Frank. Let Frank start out on him and deal with him. See what Frank can do. Jersey Shore, you say Frank against Rondo. What do you think? I think it's, that's a good matchup. That's a decent matchup for Frank. Rondo's not going to shoot a lot of threes, although he's smart. He can pick the team apart, especially if guys are moving and moving off the ball. They average 26.8 assists a game. And part of that, I'm sure, is due to Rondo, right? Finding guys moving off the ball. So Frank will have to deal with that. Rondo's not gonna light you up from. He had 6 points and 25 assists. So he's not gonna light you up from the field. He never was that kind of a guy. I've seen him a couple of times though. When he was with Boston, give it to us. I think everyone has, though. So I think, Frank could do a good job with Rondo. He's got long arms. Rondo's kind of long himself, but I think he'll do a good job. I'm concerned about those guys down low and what we're going to do with them and how KP is going to handle those guys. I'm gonna ignore that, and we'll keep on talking about Nola. And I see this guy talking about Frank here. I'm gonna ignore that, and I'm gonna continue talking about Nola. Yeah, tell him, Marty. The brother's late, man. Yeah, second in assists. So we got something to deal with. Let's look at. Let's see who they. Let's take a look at Who they like to start? Let's go back to the scores. Did they play tonight? No, they didn't play. Hey, Azor, what's your name? Azoria Media. Are you a Knicks fan? Don't worry, I'm not gonna tell you to get out or nothing. I just want to know if you're a Knicks fan. So let's see. They like to start. Oh, they're starting Rondo, Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday. Okay, so which means, Drew Holiday's averaging 18 points, 4.3 rebounds. Maybe they're playing Drew Holiday off the ball. I haven't really paid attention to him that much, but I would think if you're starting Rajon Rondo, you're probably playing Holiday off the ball. You know, so then you're looking at Courtney Lee is probably guarding Drew Holiday, and Jarrett Jack is probably guarding Rondo. Then of course you got KP. I would think it's going to be on Anthony Davis, Cantor on Cousins, and then if you're starting Thomas, he's going to be on Etwan Moore. You know, so that's interesting. I didn't know that they were starting Rondo and Drew Holiday. Let's see what Rondo's doing this year. So Rondo's averaging 6.9 points, 8.3 assists. It makes sense for Rajon Rondo. Let me ask you guys this. You know, we've been talking about starting. Frank over Jarrett Jack. Do you try starting Jarrett Jack and Frank? You know, they haven't been bad when they played together. Actually, they've looked pretty good sometimes. So, you know, we were starting. You know, at the beginning of the season, after Jack took over for Sessions, you know, we were starting Jack, Hardaway, Courtney Lee, Cantor, and KP, and it was working for us. That was working for us. Do we take a chance? Or you know, we were talking about lineup changes. Do we maybe start Frank, Jarrett Jack, Courtney Lee, KP, and Cantor? Kenny, saying Jack should come off the bench because of his defense. His defense has been exposed. I agree with you there. But he still has that offensive acumen and that leadership on the offensive side. That could help us out. You know, I don't like Jack and Frank. Kawhi, you say you don't like Jack and Frank together. I'd actually like Frank and Dougie starting together with Lee, KP, and Cantor. You know, that could work too. That could work. I think that Dougie needs to play with Kylo Quinn and Beasley because they look for him and they know where to find him, and they have good chemistry. Kylo Quinn, Beasley, they have good chemistry with Doug, and you know, they find him cutting off the ball, and KP and Cantor don't find him as much. So I think Doug, as long as if he's playing, I think he needs to play with those two players for him to play well. We can't Amadi said we can't disrespect Jack for a great turnaround season. You know, Jack, we wouldn't be where we are right now without Jack. We got to all admit that. And maybe he's, you know, he can't keep up the pace that he had earlier in the season. You know, but he still provides us something. And yeah, he has he's beginning to show a little bit of, you know, that he's slow defensively. But he still has that offensive acumen. Where, you know, he knows how to lead the team still. Hasn't been as much in the clutch as we would like to, but he still deserves minutes, I think. Um, I was just, talking about that because we had, we started the season, we were playing with a small lineup with having uh, uh, um, Lee and Hardaway at the 2 and the 3. That maybe, we try it with Frank and Jack and then Lee at the 3. But it could be a little bit too small because Frank he's long, but he's not big. So we'll see. You say go ahead and continue starting Jack. You say that's a slap in the face to sticky fingers, sticky fingers. Play Frank and Baker more, but start Jack. That's probably what's going to happen. He's probably going to continue to start Jack, especially, Jack is a vet. I think Hornacek is going to give him that respect. But the time is getting close, Marty. I think the time is getting close, to bring Frank in. And I'm not saying don't give Jack playing time. You gotta let Jack play, because he provides us with something. But it may be time to start resting his legs a little bit so that he can give us what he was giving us a little bit earlier in the season. There were times earlier in the season when the Knicks were either blowing someone out or getting blown out, and Hornacek had Jack in the game, and I'm like, why? Why not let his legs rest? There's no sense in bringing him in now. He didn't really manage him well in the beginning of the season as well as he should have. Kawhi, you say Jack can't be finishing games, though. Frank and Baker got to finish games with Dotson. Excuse me. Baker's off and on, though. Yeah, I agree Baker plays good defense, but he's been a little bit off and on. The one thing I think we all agree on is that there needs to be some kind of change, and it should happen against the Pelicans. They should, do something to try to switch something up against the Pelicans. We're getting slower in our play. We scored 100 points tonight. 107. That's not bad. We had 32 assists. But, we need to find a way to juice up the offense and get that speed out there on the floor and get up and down the floor. And that might mean bringing Jack off the bench if Frank is going to play at a faster pace. But it also means that our bigs and guys rebounding the ball, they got to get the ball out a little bit faster. Sometimes I see Kylo Quinn get the rebound, and he's kind of looking around instead of getting the ball and let's get up the floor. When the other team scores, we need to get that ball out the net and be looking to go. And we're not doing that. Kawhi is saying, what about Trey Burke? I mean, Trey Burke isn't here right now. If they bring up Trey Burke, then of course that's a thought. But right now he's not here. But listen, guys, I am going to head out. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Remember that the Pelicans game we play the Pelicans on Saturday, 7 o'clock. Game is a little bit earlier. So after the game, I'll probably get on a little bit early. You figure the game is 7 till about 9:30. I'll probably be on about 10:15. Give me a little bit of time to, get my thoughts together and get everything up on the screen. I'm still working on, being able to Skype in and get some calls in so that you guys can even be a bigger part of the show and what's going on. So I'm still working on that. So we're gonna keep on. We're gonna keep rooting our team on, man, and keep trying to make this thing. Keep trying to make the Knicks. I don't know. We're just gonna keep rooting them on. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna continue to try to make this thing get better. I appreciate you, Marty, Kawhi, Karim. Hopefully I said that correctly. I forgot the way I said it before. even you, Phillips, even though we're not on the same page, but Frank, I appreciate you, man. Keep coming in so we can keep going back and forth and talking about it. Anybody that's on the line, if I didn't get to you, keep coming on, keep posting your comments. I try to get to as many people as possible. I also try to stick with, to whatever script that I have up here, so that we can have some kind of order with what's going on. But if I didn't get to you, I try to get to you the next time around. But remember, Saturday, the game is at 7. I'll be on right after the game. And, well, not right after, about 10:15, something like that. I will catch y'all on Saturday. Peace. Take it easy. And let's go Knicks.